Hello, welcome to the Wildline podcast. I'm your host Dan. I have Chris here. Chris, how you doing today?
Oh man, it's the Sunday of Memorial Day weekend, and we have literally no U.S. box office really to speak of to discuss. That feels weird.
Well, there's so much news, though. I feel like it's weird. With the box office, always gives me something to focus on the podcast and like walk through. Yeah. But now that like there's all these stories coming out, I'm realizing that like there's a much more exciting world in movie production and film than just the box office.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm expand the podcast, daily 2-hour podcast about the film industry. Can you imagine? Oh God. CNN for film. Think about that. Like a 24-hour.
Right. Why is that not a thing?
I guess entertainment was supposed to be that, but
they just evolved into celebrity gossip.
The Kardashians. I think that's isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Did you watch Coming Attractions on the E network?
Oh, absolutely. And now I have on Coming Attractions just trailers, right?
Right.
Yeah. So there is a TV show. There's some channel I get on Sling TV, and they have this show called Nothing But Trailers, and nice. I record it constantly. It's amazing. It's one of the best things ever because trailers are the best part of any movie.
Yeah. Is there any commentary, like a host of the show? Or
there's nothing, man. No, there is this young lady who I guess hosts it, but she doesn't do anything. She just goes, "Hello, this is Nothing But Trailers. Here's the first trailer," and that's it. And then she shows up at the end. "Hey, this has been Nothing But Trailers. See you next time."
Oh my God.
She's great. Really like Emmy award winning work.
Yeah, she probably gets Probably gets $5K an episode for that.
Yeah, easily plus residuals. But we're gonna do the normal quarantine sort of time episode here where we'll talk
episode.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of free form. We're gonna talk about some news, different things, and then we'll eventually get to some numbers. The DEG most watched or watched at home top 20 to see what people are actually watching during these end times. But I thought we would lead off today's episode talking about the ridiculous announcement that HBO Max is going to be putting out Justice League, the Snyder Cut, next year. Now, so the Snyder Cut has been this sort of myth in the comic book world for since Justice League came out. And of course, he started to film Justice League. He had to drop out because of some family issues. And then Zach Whedon took over and sort of finished it. Josh Whedon came in. I just saw Zach Whedon because he's the producer of some show. I think he's a producer of Atlanta, maybe.
Is that Joss Whedon's brother?
It might be. I don't know. But I've seen his name like multiple times in the last 2 days. Josh Whedon came in, took it over, filmed a lot of reshoots. That's where we got the famous mustache being added to Superman. And all that, like constant memes from this whole production. And by the time Justice League did land, it was a complete shit show. Did terribly, flopped massively. And so there's been this clamoring by DCEU fans and zealots to say, hey, where's this Zack Snyder cut that we all really want to see? And I always thought that it was kind of a joke. I mean, didn't you think it was a joke? I didn't think it actually existed.
Oh, yeah. It seemed like wishful thinking on part of the crazy DCEU stands.
But then I sort of started to take it seriously when Ben Affleck posted about it, and other stars of Justice League said, yeah, release the Snyder Cut. So I started to take it seriously then. But HBO doing this sort of huge announcement, I think it's a huge PR win for them. Is that like now everybody knows without a doubt that HBO Max is coming out this week. In like 3 days it launches. This movie won't come out till 2021, but it was a really good PR move to sort of get their name in the press that this is happening. What do you make of all this? Do you think it's just bullshit PR, right?
Yeah, I will be so surprised if when this thing actually comes out and gets reviewed, whether it will be all that different from the Joss Whedon studio cut.
I don't want to get targeted by DCU fans, but
we've already asked for it.
Justice League is a horrific film, and I would say that so Batman versus Superman is one of the worst blockbusters I've ever seen.
It's only nominally better than BVS.
But it's an interesting sort of angle that HBO is taking. They have to sort of compete now with Netflix and Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
So this is their sort of shot out of the gate, which I think it makes sense from that perspective. But no, it's not going to be good. I think we all know this.
Right.
Josh Whedon's a much better director than Zach.
Yeah, I wonder if there'll still be hype around it too come 2021. Like they probably put it down the road so that they could, they'll get new subscribers this year with Friends and some original content, but then they're saving it for next year, even though it apparently already exists. I don't know. That seems like a strange move. Why not strike while the iron's hot?
I think it's not done yet. I think they have to do I think
okay. So it doesn't actually exist.
Yeah, from what I've heard, there's like $30 million they have to plug in to get this thing to actually to fruition. And then the other thing I thought was interesting is that somebody did a survey of sort of awareness about HBO Max and like why you want it, if you want it. And the leading group of people is DCEU people.
That's so
like
weird.
That's the biggest draw for HBO Max is that world. And I was like, you guys are insane. I mean, I relish their passion for DC comics and stuff like that, but that's just bizarre that would be the number one thing. Don't people watch Friends anymore? Isn't that cool? Is Friends cool?
I think it is.
What else you got in this HBO Max here? You got some more details for us.
I figured, since we're talking about the premiere of it this week, and we'll probably keep a closer eye on it in the weeks to come, but they're actually not putting out their first original film until August 6th. But it does seem like it has potential, as wacky as it sounds. Like, this is Hot Tub Time Machine level of just strangeness for like an absurd comedy. It's Seth Rogen as a guy who gets preserved in pickle brine for 100 years. It's called An American Pickle, and he comes out in Brooklyn, New York after having been gone, frozen in time or whatever.
Pickled in time?
Pickled in time. It's like, Austin Powers meets an SNL digital short. It's from Brandon Trost, the cinematographer from MacGruber and Disaster Artist, and that's his directorial debut. What a weird way to start out, but I think that it'll probably get a good number of streams.
I think it'll do okay. It is a weird thing to pick up immediately, and that was one of the first big press things about HBO Max is getting this movie. It's just bizarre. Like, who wants to see this? I love Seth Rogen. I know. And I don't even watch anything he's in. I don't want to see this. I watched Superbad again this weekend. I don't know why. Did he direct that or produce that? Am I just making this up?
He co-wrote it. Yeah.
Co-wrote it. Okay. It's a bizarre pick for HBO Max. But I think they're just at this point, and Apple TV is making the same move because Apple TV's launch was not very good. When did that come out? November last year, and they're not doing all that well. They're starting to sort of gobble up original films to try and compete with Netflix because it's gonna be tough out there. It's gonna be real tough, especially because movie theaters are closed until at least July now, and who knows if they're actually going to reopen. Which kind of brings us to the next sort of phase of stories here, a group of stories. Movie production is restarting in Georgia. I say, well, why do we care about Georgia? Well, Georgia is essentially kind of one of the new centers of film production. It has been for the last decade, but now it's sort of, I wouldn't want to say neck and neck with New York and Los Angeles, but it's getting very close. Yeah. And so they've established some safety protocols to say, hey, you can go on set. There's a lot of like crazy things. Talent has to wear masks except when on camera. Clear barrier between actors when establishing marks and positions. I mean, this sounds like a mess. Employing cinema trickery to make actors appear closer than they are. I mean, I guess they're going back to work, so that's good. And it's happening, this week or next week. Or no, sorry. Yeah, I think next week. And then Tyler Perry, who has a huge studio near Atlanta, he's starting production in July 8th. They're going to restart. What do you think? Too soon or not soon enough? I don't know.
No, this is definitely too soon. Like we were kind of mentioning last week, there's still so much content that's out there that hasn't been released to the public yet. It just seems like a needless danger for. But I mean, Tyler Perry, as successful as he is, like he's known for just like cranking his machine. Yeah, and so it's not surprising that he's going to try to lead the pack with this kind of thing. But it's just silly. Like there's so much content out there. I think we're going to be okay if we wait another month or two. I really feel like until this will lead into kind of the next big thing we'll talk about. We'll talk about the big productions that are coming back in besides the Tyler Perry stuff. But I feel like we're still so far away from people being willing to go to the movies, and there's still all these movies that have been pushed. Like, just calm it down. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you had to pump the brakes a bit. I mean, the one hand, it's like you do. I think of the concern. There's a lot of concern, obviously, by the corporate stooges at the top who want to, restart their revenue machine. But I think people who work in the industry are pretty much devastated, especially below the line. And it's sort of like, they need work. They want to get back to work. They want to start production. Think of the thousands of people that are employed doing this sort of stuff. But at the same time, I don't know. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense why this would be one of the first things to come back.
Exactly.
And there's certainly safety protocols that you can do. Like, you've seen it in sports, like the Bundesliga came back in Germany. The Premier League is going to come back pretty soon. They're testing everybody once a week. So there's protocols that you can put in place.
Yeah. Any testing protocols going on here? And
I just saw, I think they noted in one of these paragraphs, just temperature checks. I didn't see anything. The thing is, you can't come back unless you're testing. And often. And so it's just bizarre to me that there's blueprints out there on how to do this from other countries, and we just ignore them for whatever reason.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. So it's coming back, and part of that is not just here in the States, but overseas. Avatar 2 is resuming production this week in New Zealand, which I forgot they were shooting. I just watched The Abyss recently, and God, beautiful film. Just a terrible story. Just so bad. Like, the last half of The Abyss is just
don't ruin this for me.
It's total nonsense. But Avatar, I don't do. Do we want Avatar?
No, nobody wants it. It's being jammed down our throats because they built the Pandora land in Disney World. I really think that's the only reason it's happening still.
And it's probably a play for China too, because it did so well in China and overseas last time that I just figure that, and they're doing 2 back-to-back filming at the same time, like 2 and 3, I think. I'm not looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the floppage though.
Yeah, it'll be a spectacular train wreck. That'll be fun. And I mean, to be fair, like, the only credit that I'll give this news is that New Zealand is one of the very few countries that have basically cleaned everything up, and it helps that they're a small island country, but they know what they're doing. So if any of the places you're going to restart production, New Zealand makes sense at least.
Yeah, and we'll see how that plays out. And if someone gets sick on set, then they'll shut it down.
Yeah.
And so,
that'll be a mess.
That's it's absolutely crazy. Also in production news, I thought this was insane, and I read it like a week ago whenever it dropped, and I was like, no. Then I read it today, and I was like, no.
I read it. Yeah, I had to read it multiple times to really make it sink in.
I'm not sure I really understand what's happening. So Micheal Bay is producing a film in Los Angeles that's going to start filming in July. I guess that's assuming that they're going to allow film production in Los Angeles. I know there's rumors of that, but I don't know. Hendrix should probably know. He should tell us.
Yeah. We have a friend on Sunset Boulevard. We should get him as a guest.
Yeah, we should bring him on. Talk about movie finances. That's what he does.
Yeah.
He'll probably be like, "You guys are all wrong. What the hell are you talking about?" It's like, man, it's fun. It's all for fun.
Yeah, he's literally an accountant on set, and he's called this podcast "Two in the Weeds."
I love it. But there is a Micheal Bay film being produced about the pandemic. Is it about this pandemic or just a general pandemic?
That's one of the things that seems confusing. It feels like it definitely could go like the Law and Order route, where it's just like vaguely about this, or it seems, I don't know, maybe in his old age he's really has lost all his dignity and shame and
Have you seen
is going
13
to
Hours?
Literally call it the coronavirus. What's that?
Oh, I did make you watch 13 Hours.
Oh yeah, it's true.
One of my favorite films of the last decade. Just a masterpiece.
I still don't know if you're joking or not.
I'm not joking. It's wonderful.
What?
And maybe this pandemic film, Songbird, will be genius.
What is this? What is that name? What's going on with that title? It's the rhythm section all over again.
The rhythm section.
Songbird.
or Bird Box, a pandemic
Bird
film. You know,
Yeah,
maybe he's
right.
trying to ride the coattails. He was never very original. He just stole
No.
everything from David Fincher he worked with early on. That's a fact, by the way. I didn't realize that.
Yep.
They were like
crazy.
very close, and Micheal Bay basically is a thief, but a good thief. And so that's filming in July. Pandemic thriller. That's all we have. It's some no-name director, I think. He's like a TV director. I looked him up, and he has like a lot of credits, but nothing that notable. So it's probably a super small situation. Remember, he did back in A Quiet Place, and I think the production was like $19 million. So Micheal Bay does have a good sort of production touch.
Well, yeah, he's a businessman. He's not an artist.
No, he's a commercial filmmaker. That's what he is. And then speaking of Los Angeles, it sounds like theaters are going to open up in July there. That's a tentative
Crazy.
plan from City of Los Angeles. Who knows how they're going to open? I haven't heard anything. Have you heard anything in Minneapolis at all about movie theaters?
We have a notable movie theater in the heart of Minneapolis that is opening on June 1st.
Wow,
With
going
social
for it.
distancing and 50% occupancy, but it's scary. And I was talking with friends, and we're like, nope, not going to do it. But we have floated the idea with each other, like, might as well just buy tickets and not go, like,
To
'cause
support,
they're like,
yeah.
they're a legendary theater, and so we know that they're probably hurting. That's the reason that they're going along with the governor's new guidelines here in Minnesota that businesses can open as long as they operate at 50% and social distancing.
Yeah, man. I can't see going.
No,
I don't know.
thank you.
Maybe I'm a weirdo. I just no. I can't do it. It's not worth the risk. It's like why have not. I used to have a weird habit. I used to get a pizza every week from this pizza place on Friday nights. Every single Friday at the exact same time I would get it. And I haven't gone since the pandemic started. It's like they've been open the entire time. They're like a mile away. I practically know the people that work there. And it's just, I can't do it, man.
Yeah.
It's just the risk is too high. Like, why would I risk getting into like a disease that can kill me just for a fucking piece of pizza? It makes no sense.
Yeah, and definitely not for a Chris Nolan movie. No.
Oh, I can't wait. We should talk about the Tenet new trailer. It's so good. But why don't you do the next story we got here on the survey?
Yeah. That's so there we talked I don't know if it was last week or the week before. I think it was last week, right? We talked about the study that was essentially funded by the movie industry. But this one this one's a little further removed. It was published in Variety from the Full Circle Research Company, and the big headline on it was that this study said 70% of respondents would rather stay home to watch new movies.
Oh, yeah, I did see this. Wow.
Yes. So, I mean, it's a sample size of 1,000, so it's not a huge
But that's
study.
not small either. Like,
No, it's a moderate sized study, and it was specifically about if the price was the same between movie theater and home streaming. And obviously, that totally depends, because we talked about this when the price points started coming out for Trolls World Tour, and then Scoob and Capone, and it's all over the place. Generally between $9.99 and $19.99, and you got to consider the number in any given household that is doing the renting of or streaming of the film, right? But I think that is essential. If you're thinking $20 for a family of 4 for a kids movie, or $10 for a household of 2 for an adult drama about Al Capone pissing himself. I mean, you got to imagine that if these options keep coming into fruition, that we're looking at a slow but pretty solid death of the movie theater industry.
Yeah, this was surprising to me. I mean, I think it was just sort of like the key is the pricing, right? Because PVOD has never worked because the theaters and studios could never agree on the right price. It was set at $50 about 10 years ago. And that was floated until about 3 years ago, $40 for a movie 3 weeks after release, not even day and date, not the same day.
Right.
But now that we've dropped down because of the pandemic, and it's like, it's weird. It's kind of like how iTunes set the price of a song at 99 cents. There was a lot of theory behind it, blah, 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 but it was a cultural moment where that price is psychologically locked into people.
Yep.
And like, I feel like that's happened now. And I get the feeling, I don't think exhibition is going to die off completely, of course, but it's going to contract, I think, significantly because of this. And then we're going to have a rise of PVOD as like a major distribution method outside of your Netflix streaming and your Amazon Prime streaming, which is delayed for the most part. I think things are going to start premiering a lot more on PVOD for that price point. I think the price point's going to go up.
You think so?
I think so. I think that they might be able to squeeze out $25 for some of these. The $19.99, yeah, maybe, I don't know. Maybe they stick with it. Maybe it goes lower. But I just don't. The calculus that I can't run in my head is why would a studio do this unless they started the production knowing it was going to be PVOD, because they have it all built out in their books. You know, theatrical release, this is the marketing budget, this is what we're going to get for TV, this is what we're going to get for pay cable, and wipe that all away. You have to rebuild your product from scratch. So it's like it's going to have to be a different ball game.
Yeah, I mean, I also could see it. I mean, you talked about the notion of it contracting. I mean, the same thing could happen with movie production, and basically all mid-range content becomes PVOD eventually.
Yeah.
And you basically have superhero movies and art house movies being the only thing out there.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a possibility. And with the Capone release, you know, doing the 2.5 million, which sounds like okay. When you do the books and stuff like that, they're not going to make any money, right? They're going to lose cash on it. And so, you know, you do wonder a lot of what's coming out right now in premium VOD is just getting dumped. It's a dumping ground, like January would be for genre films. And so I don't think we have I want to see a movie that was made for $70 million or $50 million, full on with a full big cast meant for PVOD, and then see those numbers. The studio is going to take a much bigger cut. They take like 70 to 80% of a VOD sale as opposed to 50% of a ticket in a movie theater. But I want to see the economics work, because I don't know. I know what consumers want, and consumers usually win. They want to see it at home. But at the same time, like, what's the difference between a Netflix original film that you get for essentially what feels like free and paying $20 to see Capone? You know, like...
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, Capone was the $9.99 price point.
Okay, yeah, that's true.
But still, like, I mean,
still
it's
too
fair.
Expensive. Yikes.
Yeah, I mean, and I can't imagine that if it was a $19.99 price point that it would be any more in, you know, initial rentals being announced. It is strange. I mean, take a look at like Trolls World Tour again. The budget for that was like $100 million. Yeah,
it was big. It was real big.
So like, it seems like there is just such a wide. I mean, it's the Wild West out there, as you've said before. Yeah. So it does seem like there is no consistent thought process in either the production stage or the post-production or the marketing stage for any of this stuff. It does just seem like if somebody says, let's try it out, they try it out. And Josh Trank, like a firebrand, if there ever was one, like it makes sense to risk it on that. A sequel to a really ugly movie that was a really big hit.
Yeah.
But is going to go forgotten if they wait much longer on it, especially as, you know, Disney revs its engines. Yeah, makes sense. Why not try it out? So I think that's the kind of thing that we're going to see. It's going to be sporadic. It's going to be kind of haphazard and not a lot of thought going into it. It's going to be a lot of businesses operating from their guts rather than from, you know, a proven, you know, pocketbook method.
Speaking of going from their gut, the Jon Stewart film is getting dumped on VOD. Yeah. Irresistible, starring Steve Carell and Rose Byrne. A political satire. I had not heard anything about
bad.
This. Yeah, it looks real bad. And
but I think so did his last movie, that Rosewater. People were thinking that was gonna.
Yeah, he's like, I'm leaving Daily Show to go do this movie or something. Wait, no, he left, and John Oliver filled in. And that's how John Oliver got so popular and ended up having his own TV show, because he was off filming his movie. So, you know, it sounds like a sort of interesting film. This is Focus Features, which is a pretty big sort of imprint. I guess you'd call it an indie imprint, but it's part of Universal. And they've been around forever. But dumping it on VOD, no one's going to see this. So this is where you get into that weird gray zone where like, how would this film ever be successful? I think the only way it would be successful is if it was on an HBO premiere, like HBO Saturday Night Movie premiere. And then people would actually show up and watch it. The economics have to work out for HBO for that to happen. But like PVOD, this doesn't really make any sense. And it certainly would not make any sense being released in theaters.
Right.
I mean, who the hell would show up to see this crap?
Well, that's an interesting point you make, because like take a look at Bad Education, which became an HBO film.
Yeah.
And it got rave reviews and tons of people watched it. And of course, the pandemic had part to do with that. But when I watched it and I really enjoyed it, I started like doing a little dig on HBO movies. And this actually was pretty common back in the 90s, where movies would pop up in production and they would switch to HBO buying them.
Yeah.
For the one big instance that I read about was that 1993 AIDS epidemic movie, which is also kind of interesting to look at that as a precursor.
The band plays on that one,
and the band played on, yeah. And so like this was gonna be like a huge like ensemble movie based on like a nonfiction bestseller about like one of the biggest events in American history, and then Philadelphia starts getting a bunch of press, and suddenly I forget who the studio was, but they're like, okay, let's just sell it to HBO, and it becomes a huge hit on HBO and wins all these Golden Globes and Emmys, and maybe that's the route we're looking at with a lot of this stuff. Yeah,
it makes a lot of sense. I feel like that would make sense for this sort of smaller film.
Right.
Bad Education is a perfect example, because that was trying to get snatched up by a distributor. Like they were definitely wanting to get released on the art house circuit at least. But no one came knocking. And so HBO was there. It's like, hey, let's do this. And it worked out in the end of the day. Like I said, pandemic, maybe something to do with it, but it does seem like an HBO type film. But you know what it doesn't seem like? A Netflix film.
Right.
Like, and then that, like what we're seeing now is sort of the demarcation between these different brands and house styles that we saw in studios is now transitioning over to streaming, where Netflix, if I'm like 13 years old and I want to watch a stupid romantic comedy about teenagers, Netflix is my goldmine. But if I'm an adult with some sensibility to me whatsoever, you're probably gonna get more of HBO original productions than Netflix. I mean, that's a broad stroke, but whatever. You see what I'm saying?
No, you can't deny that. I mean, I'm looking at Netflix. We got that coming up on our list here. Maybe is it okay? We just go ahead and talk about that.
Jump into it, yeah.
Because like the most watched movie in like basically all of the internet this week was the David Spade-led vehicle, The Wrong Missy.
I have to prevent myself from going on a rant, but I'm not going to.
Did you watch this?
I watched it. So I have 2 TVs in my house. I have one in my living room and then I have one in my bedroom, which I did not have for a long time, but like I have it in there now because it feels like I'm in a hotel or something. It feels very luxurious to have a TV in my bedroom. I don't know why. I'm weird. And so sometimes I watch stuff late at night as I'm sort of getting ready for bed or, just kind of dozing off a bit. And I put The Wrong Missy on, knowing who it is and knowing what it's all about. I know these guys, I know the productions. I didn't mind a lot of the Adam Sandler movies on Netflix, like The Ridiculous Six. Wrong Turn was one of them, or The Do-Over or something like that. I thought they were like, okay, this movie is filth. Like, it is absolute beyond lowest common denominator. It is one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life. People should be put in prison for this. I'm serious. It's that bad.
Cultural crimes.
Like this, it's so, and it is the one reason why I am very critical of Netflix and what they're doing and taking over this industry in a lot of ways. They don't have the chops. They don't have the discernment in what they're making. They're making swill. They're literally making swill and shoving it down people's throats. And the only reason it's number one, but that's precisely the problem, because they don't give a shit and they don't care whatsoever what they make, because, and this is like goes to a much bigger sort of business thing about like startups and metrics and how people see data, but like they're literally looking at like A/B testing things. And it's like, oh, this one goes up 10%. This one goes up 5%. Therefore, it's better. Therefore, it's better. And you get into a feedback loop where you get a product like The Wrong Missy, which checks a lot of boxes, right? Adam Sandler produced. David Spade. We all know David Spade. Kind of a stupid, dumb throwaway film that you can watch in passing. The only thing that Netflix cares about which I think is actually from a business perspective, like really bad, is they're just looking at engagement numbers.
Oh yeah.
Who's watching and how much are they watching? They're not looking at like, you know, what's the like user experience surveying or like the net promoter score of this film, because if they did, it would be like horrific. I mean, people would be like, well, yeah, I watched that. I guess it was terrible, but I just watched it in the background. And so like there, I don't know, I could go on and on. I'm not going to, but it's one of the worst things I have ever seen in my entire life, hands down.
But I mean, you know, you've got like the Happy Madison productions like that, but then you also have the Lovebirds, which premiered on Netflix, which is an example of one of those mid-range movies that probably would have, you know, barely broken even if it was put out theatrically, even if there wasn't a pandemic. And so there's still like, it seems like a demarcation between the Netflix house style and the now HBO brand of something more prestigious and dramatic and adult. And then you also have Disney Plus, who's, you know, now premiering the Artemis Fowl movie soon, and then going to premiere Hamilton in July. So they've got their own like family friendly edge or a style to them. So I think you're right. I think there's going to be this increasing what's the word I'm looking for? It's like a consolidation or a compartmentalization of the studios that kind of did happen on and off in the 80s and 90s as well.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
Like,
yeah.
You knew if you were getting a Bruckheimer production, you knew what you were getting. If you know, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, it's like kind of how Lionsgate is definitely not a top studio. Yeah. Like you just see Lionsgate, like, okay, like this probably is one step above directed VOD. You know, it's like it has that feel to it. STX is kind of similar with that. It's going to be interesting, like how this all plays out. What about Scoob though? Let's talk about Scoob.
Yeah, we got to mention Scoob. It's dominating the VOD charts. It's both the HD and 4K versions have the 1 and 2 spots on the Amazon chart. But the weird part is that Warner Brothers isn't actually releasing numbers.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything. The only thing that I've heard is that Scott Mendelson of Forbes, he's like their box office guy at Forbes, was basically saying that it has to be like lapping Trolls World Tour. Yeah. Just like based on like, I don't know what conjecture that he has or numbers that he has. If that's true, then this thing's well over $100 million worldwide, which would be, you know, it's a fascinating sort of win for Warner Brothers. And it deepens that divide between the studios and the movie theater companies who are, you know, maybe breathing a sigh of relief that things are reopening. But at the end of the day, the consumer is going to rule. And if there's a spot for, you know, movie theater companies might lose 30% of their films now because of this new path to release a film. Right. I mean, Scoob is kind of like Trolls World Tour. We had the boys do the review last week. It's a family film. It's a very specific niche. I think that works for PVOD, but like, why wasn't the Lovebirds put on PVOD? Right.
Because I think they knew that like Capone, it wasn't gonna do much, and Netflix has their I don't know all of the financial terms. They're angel investors or they're capital venturists that. Well,
now they're public, so it's shareholders.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So they probably just took it and ran, right? Who produced the Lovebirds?
I don't even know, because I mean that was heavily promoted on trailers. Like in the theater, because I was going to movies constantly earlier this year, and I saw the Lovebirds trailer like 10 times.
Yeah, same.
Who was it? I was probably like Warner Brothers or something.
Paramount.
Oh, Paramount. Oh, God, Paramount's trash. They're just they're in a rough spot. They can't make a good movie to save their life. It's in like all these other movies, Painter and the Thief, Lucky Grandma, all VOD stuff, right? Inheritance. It's just the new Trip to Greece. Is that with
that's with Steve Coogan.
That looks interesting. I'm gonna check that one out. You know what I need? Here's what we need now. And this is an idea I had like years ago. We need like a PVOD, a premium streaming service.
Right.
That's just for these new releases that are sort of higher quality. and like charge $20 a month, $25 a month, and put these on there, you would clean up.
Yep.
Absolutely clean up. It's crazy. What about drive-in stuff?
Yeah. So, real quick before the drive-in stuff, I did want to mention that this virtual cinema thing that we briefly mentioned a couple weeks ago, it kind of really picked up this week with two notable releases that aren't getting a lot of major press, but I mean, Neon Pictures has teamed up with a number of studios, as has Kino Studios. They teamed up with Alamo. So Neon put out this movie, The Painter and the Thief, this weekend on virtual cinemas. And if you go to the Neon website, you can click like which cinema you want to digitally support and just stream it straight from the Neon site. Same thing with Lucky Grandma. It's a collaboration with the Alamo Drafthouse Studios, and so half the movie ticket goes to the Alamo Drafthouse cinemas. So that's kind of a big deal in terms of like these indie art house releases, especially with the news. And I don't remember if we mentioned it last week, because I think it happened over a week ago now, that the Oscars are getting pushed back with no new date for early in 2021. So this might be a way to ensure that, especially because their rule that they threw out was that there has to be a theatrical exhibition in New York or Los Angeles, right? So if this catches on, I don't know how. There's obviously going to be probably no numbers released about this kind of virtual cinema thing, but if it catches on by any means, that could be a way to at least get the Oscar bait stuff out in the open, at least
out in the ether. Oscars, I don't know. I don't think they're going to happen. There's no way
at all.
How? It's like, and plus, like, once you open yourself up to the streaming thing, you just like 10x or even more, 30x the number of films eligible. So then it just becomes like a total shit show. I don't know. I sound like Spielberg. Say the theaters. I
don't know.
Speaking of theaters, let's talk about drive-ins.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get into the drive-ins. It's the top winner of the 21 drive-ins that are now open.
Love 20. That's amazing.
It's almost doubled now in 2 weeks though. It's $186K for IFC's Z-grade horror movie, The Wretched. And there's been no new releases. They tried to put out How to Build a Girl with Beanie Feldstein, but that didn't play at all. But there are a couple movies lined up to not only go to the drive-ins, but to actual exhibitors, any ones that are open anyways. Mighty Oak, the Paramount musical drama with Raven-Symoné. We just badmouthed Paramount. I cannot imagine that this is something that will get much of any money. This seems like a straight to Disney Plus kind of thing.
Yeah, that made any sense. Why are they doing this? Paramount. Again.
Yeah. They're just I don't know what they're thinking over there. And then kind of the biggest thing we talked about, Unhinged last week, the Russell Crowe thriller that will likely come out, but it also was released this week. That the Rod Lurie directed Afghanistan war drama, The Outpost. From Screen Media, Orlando Bloom in a starring role for the first time in a while, is coming July 5th to both drive-ins and any open movie theaters. What's going on there? This also seems like pretty much guaranteed swill. Rod Lurie is the guy who did The Contender a number of years ago with Joan Allen. This basically seems like Islamophobic propaganda, which makes sense since he is a Jew living in Israel, and I don't know what's happening. Why wouldn't you just throw this to Netflix along with Extraction and Triple Frontier and all that crap?
I think it's just it's the fog of war situation where I think people who have shitty products are trying to find a way to make money. Capone's the perfect example. Like, it was never going to make real money. This wasn't either. Like, war films like this, nobody wants to see this stuff. We're still fighting this war. And people don't remember it. Of course, on Memorial Day, people don't remember it all. And like doing a movie about this, like, nobody wants to see this. And Orlando Bloom, what was the last movie he was in that was good? Has he ever been in a movie that's good? Elizabethtown? I mean, I think it's just it's spaghetti on the wall, seeing what sticks, seeing how someone can make some money off of anything. I think is what's happening. What else is going on at the theaters?
So the other kind of big news is that since there are now 348 open movie theaters, and like we mentioned earlier, Minneapolis is opening one next week, and LA is maybe opening them in July. People are starting to look internationally at what's going on to kind of see the models of if it's actually worth it, right?
Yeah.
The big news this weekend is that Germany took in over $1 million at their box office, and so did South Korea.
Oh wow.
It's I mean, we get it, right? Like, they're rubbing it in our faces. They're flattening the curve quicker and better than we are. But that's not great, right?
No,
that's horrible.
Terrible. Yeah, those are not good numbers.
So why even try? I don't know. This seems so silly. And they I mentioned in our notes here that the German dramedy Perfect Strangers, which is a remake of a 2016 Italian film, was at number 1 in Germany, but the number 2 movie in Germany right now is Joker.
Ugh,
so
gross.
It doesn't seem like there's such a randomness in the amount of content that's being willing to put out there by the studios versus what the movie theater companies are wanting to do. Escape from Pretoria, which went VOD here in the States earlier this year, about Daniel Radcliffe as a South African escaping from an apartheid era prison.
Oh yeah,
is number 1 in South Korea.
Yeah. Huh.
Czech Republic took in those are the only 2 countries that took over $1 million. Czech Republic took in $761K, with Onward leading the pack there, the Disney release. So what do we think? What are we doing here? It does not seem like we should be modeling these countries. Number one, because of how horribly we're dealing with this compared to them. But number 2, because the money's just not there. It doesn't even make fiscal sense.
No, yeah, I think they're just trying to get the spark lit and make people more comfortable to come back. And like I don't think, even let's say theaters open in Los Angeles and say the rest of the company in July, or country in July, you won't see normal traffic till probably March next year, I would say. Like, it's just like, it's just not going to happen, and it's not really going to come together. But what's interesting about that, it kind of leads into the next story about Sony, is that movie production companies are acting like everything's normal, right? Yeah, they're acting like they're going to have this avenue to release $200 million films, $100 million films in the next year or so. And I'm not sure if that's really going to be the case. Like, is it? When's this Spider-Man spinoff supposed to come out?
It was just greenlit. Jackpot, a spinoff about the little-known heroine from the comic books who gets superhuman strength and invulnerability powers while she's pregnant, which is like that last bit is the only thing interesting about her character, really. And I'm a comic book geek. I grew up on Spider-Man books, but it just seems like such a throwaway. And they already did like a B-movie throwaway with Venom, even though it made tons of money.
So much money. It's disgusting how much money it made.
I just don't think there's a way to replicate that. And I guess time will tell with the Venom sequel coming out and a Morbius movie coming out next year as well. But why they're just buying all these up and planning all this stuff when this is we're still in the thick of it? I don't know. Why do you think the production studios are operating as if that nothing's wrong?
Well, I think in this, it's one of those things. It's like normalcy bias. Like, they can't fathom a world without movie theaters doing $12 billion a year in sales in the U.S. and Canada. I just don't think they can see it. I think obviously this year is going to be way off, but I think they think that it's going to be a rebound in 2021, and it's going to shoot to like $13-14 billion for the year. And with something like this, you can always stop it. You can put in $10 million in production costs and say, okay, this isn't going anywhere. But I think this is also, I think the Jackpot movie is an arms race situation where Sony's trying to build up its Marvel Cinematic Universe versus the real Marvel Cinematic Universe that Disney owns. And they're just trying to throw stuff and stick it on a wall. All I want to know is, where the fuck is my Gambit movie, and when the hell is it gonna come out?
Just wait for New Mutants first.
I don't care who does it. I don't care who makes it. I don't care if Jason Blum makes it on a home VHS video. I don't give a shit. Just give me my Gambit movie. Love
just
it.
Channing Tatum on a Zoom call with
just a table read. Give me a table read.
Just table read. Yeah, right.
I'd pay $5 No, I wouldn't. I would not pay $5 to see that.
I was thinking I definitely would.
I would not pay $5 to see that. What else is coming?
Okay.
More production.
Yeah, well, you got this one. We just watched the original this weekend over Zoom. Speaking of Zoom based entertainment. But this is a huge. This is huge. Go for it.
Scream 5 is officially coming. And as a huge Scream fan, it's amazing. I love Wes Anderson. I love Wes Craven. He's amazing. I love Wes Anderson too. What am I talking about? What if Wes Anderson did a horror film? Now that I'm thinking about it.
That's an SNL sketch, right?
Oh yeah, it is an SNL sketch. Yeah, it is. But Scream 5 is official. It's coming. It's not. This is not even like rumors. This is Kevin Williamson is going to produce. He's not going to write this time. James Vanderbilt is going to write this, who is like a journeyman writer. It sounds like he's done. Murder Mystery with Adam Sandler, terrible, but also Zodiac with David Fincher, so he's all over the place. And this is from the directing team, Radio Silence, who did Ready or Not last year, which I thought was really solid. It's on HBO right now if you guys want to watch it.
Oh, it is. I gotta watch it.
Yeah, I think it premiered a couple weeks ago. David Arquette is signed on. There's talks with Neve Campbell to come back, so this is not going to be a reboot. This is going to be a continuation of the Scream 4 and the rest of the series. So it's going to be a direct follow-up to Scream 4. I'm very excited about it. I had thought that Blumhouse was trying to do this.
Yeah, right.
And I heard rumors maybe like a year ago that he was trying to buy up the rights to do another Scream. I'm happy about it. I love that Kevin Williamson is involved. I think he's, pitiable, a primary reason why the first film was so good is his script, and all the films, he wrote them all. And so what do you feel about this? Do you feel like it's going to be worthy of the other films, or do you think it's going to be kind of trashy?
Oh, it's got to be trashy. I mean, I haven't seen Ready or Not, so maybe you have more faith in it than I do. But
it's good, but it's not that good.
I mean, let the poor man rest in his grave. It's this seems like an affront to Wes Craven. I agree. A lot of the success of the first one had to do, and of the franchise as a whole, has to do with Kevin Williamson. But I was doing some research about Scream this weekend after we watched it as a friends group over Zoom, and it just seemed so obvious, especially after watching it for the first time in several years and being really cognizant of the camera work and the blocking and the sets. This is Craven. This is his baby through and through. It just happens to have a really solid, set of window dressing, which is the meta references, and even like he had already been practicing that with New Nightmare a few years prior.
100%.
So like I really, and Kevin Williamson has done a lot of schlock in recent years. I think once The Following came out, I officially wrote him off and said, "This man is oh god." I would be very interested. It's I would say probably top 3 worst TV shows I've ever seen.
What's it about?
It's about Kevin Bacon is a detective hot on the heels of a serial killer who kills his victims.
This sounds awesome. This is on Fox, wasn't it?
Yeah, he kills his victims. Oh my god, you might actually love it.
Yeah, I might love this. I love Hidden Palms you did in 2007.
He's a former British lit professor that kills his victims in the styles of Edgar Allan Poe.
I'm in. Sign me up. I'm going to start streaming that tonight.
And there's like a cult that follows him, and that's why it's called The Following, because you don't know if it's one of his cult members or if it's the original killer. It's so stupid.
That sounds pretty fun. That sounds like a good. Yeah, I think you're right. I think this is going to be trashy, and I think it's sad because you know what? I'm still upset to this day that Scream 4 is not a box office success.
I know, right?
It doesn't make any sense. It was very, very solid. It was well done. It was a great send off to the series by Wes Craven and Kevin. And I like, this is inevitable though. Like it's a good property. They had the TV show on MTV and VH1. And so we knew this was going to happen. And I'm surprised that David Arquette and the rest, but what is Neve Campbell up to these days? I love her, but like, what is she up to?
I know, right?
She's such a good, I think she's a very good actress. People say that and they always say it on the call. I just don't agree with that sentiment. I think she's a solid, real classically trained, right? Isn't she a stage actor? I love when people say that. I was a stage actor. Okay, that's movie news. You want to do the top 20 and see what we can get through here?
Yeah, let's do it. This is a big change this week, and we did figure this out, and there was some confirmation that you have here in our notes that a lot of this has to do with Blu-ray sales, right?
Yeah, so physical sales are really popping off these movies that are making big jumps at the list. What was number 1?
That's Birds of Prey, the fantabulous emancipation of one Harley Quinn. Yeah, this is strange. I was also looking at the Amazon charts to look at the Scoob and Trolls World Tour status, and yeah, those have got the number 1 and 2 spots, and our number 2 on the list here is also in the top 5 on Amazon easily. Birds of Prey, nowhere to be found.
Yeah, it is kind of bizarre. I'm not sure how DEG does these calculations. But this thing was released on VOD March 24th, I think, like way back. And now we're just getting the physical release 2 months later, and this thing is popping off. It's always been in the top 10 since release, but it was definitely down near the bottom, and this thing jumped 7 spots to the number 1 slot. It's kind of crazy, and it kind of goes back to our surprise at last week with the films making those big jumps. Physical media, I guess, is not dead, and I just assumed that it was completely dead. That nobody watched, and I look at these numbers that DEG puts together on a yearly basis. If you're fascinated by it, they have great industry data about like VOD, and you can see exactly how the industry has changed dramatically over the 10 years because they've tracked it the whole time. But physical media has always been contracting, but it still is big enough as an aggregate to move the needle on this stuff. And it's pretty crazy that Birds of Prey is number 1, and then what's number 2? Bloodshot. Dropped a spot. That's been out for a long time too. But I think last week, this is the one that popped off because of that DVD, right? I think. Right. Yeah, okay. So that was kind of a similar situation here, but it's still up there. Number 3 is Bad Boys for Life, just dropping 1 spot to the 3 spot. Again, it is what it is. Comfort. I love that we have to talk about these films 100 times over. It's like my favorite part about doing this podcast because it's like every week I have a different interpretation about the same film. It's like a Rorschach test for this week. Yeah. But Bad Boys for Life, what's our tagline in Bad Boys for Life? It's essentially escapist nostalgia. Escapist nostalgia. But then the Call of Wild, I guess there's nostalgia for Call of Wild. No. I guess it's just like an old school story, right? Yeah. Old school, classic, boring story, classic narrative, jumps 9 spots to the number 4 because of DVD release. Who the fuck is buying DVD? It makes me go insane. Although ever since that we started talking about DVD sales going up, I've started to want to buy a Blu-ray player and like have physical media. Don't do it. So, but you know why though? It's because in watching, I'm trying to go through all the like 1940s and 50s noir films because I didn't have no education in that whatsoever. So I want to just go through them all. It's very hard to find most of them. And then when you do find them, they're like shitty cuts on like YouTube. And I want like a remastered, beautiful cut because like seeing a classic film with like when it's remastered and retouched is beautiful. And when you see like a YouTube cut of it, it's like, oh, this is terrible. Like, of course, terrible. Old movies did suck. But then when you see like the remastered one, you're like, oh, this is amazing. Like, how do they do this in 1945? So I might be on the physical media bandwagon here soon. What's number 5?
Number 5 is Sonic the Hedgehog, down 2 spots. It's slowing down, but I think this one we're gonna keep mentioning, as boring as it may be.
Neo nostalgia.
Yep, exactly. Number 6 is Fantasy Island. This is a brand new one, even though I feel like we've seen it
was on the list, and then it fell off the list, and now I think it's back on because it's now on DVD. Yeah,
gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. Is that what's going on with number 7?
I still believe the wonderful Christian music film, which I have not seen it, but I have to see it.
I'm surprised you haven't yet. Maybe that could be the first in your physical collection.
I might. I love Britt Robertson. She's great. So that one, I think that one's still VOD. I don't think that's on DVD yet.
No.
Jumanji. Showing some weakness.
Oh, God.
The perfect product as film. Dropped 4 spots to the number 8 spot. Gentleman's at number 9, dropping 2 spots. And then 1917 is somehow in the top 10. Still. What's at number 11?
Yeah, Star Wars Rise of Skywalker officially dropped out. Disney Plus, right? It's
killing sales.
It doesn't make any sense. What else we got here in the top 20? We got a new one on number 14, right?
Oh, Invisible Man. So this must have been... This is also DVD sales.
Yeah.
Because it was out on VOD for the longest. It was one of the first movies to switch over to that PVOD release because its theatrical got cut off by the pandemic. So that one is new. What else? We got Knives Out still sticking around. We got some TV stuff.
Yep, and then at number 19, Ford versus Ferrari. With maybe, I don't know, is this DVD? But this came out.
This came out forever ago.
Yeah, no, it came out on video in January. I don't know what's going on here. It's bored dads. They fixed everything around the house, so now they're buying Ford versus Ferrari on DVD. I don't know,
which is so bad. Oh, God, I couldn't even get through it. And I am like a sucker for films like this. Like I love Oscar bait films that are just like so overwritten and like they bash you in the head with the moral of the story. But I was like watching this and I was like, God, I can't do this. I don't trust anything Christian Bale says about anything. Last on the top 20 was Yellowstone season 2 TV DVD set here. I guess people still do that too.
My in-laws are obsessed with that show.
Who's my guy in that? Tyler Sheridan, right? He's the creator.
I think so, yeah.
He's wonderful. Everybody go watch Wind River tonight. Real heartwarming film. Really good
God, no, it's not.
I've seen it like 12 times. It's fucking weird. All right, that's all we got, right? What do you got? Anything we want to close the show with anything?
No, I mean it's just it's hard out here for a box office podcast. So I think we're due for a rebranding. We've been talking about it a little while. I finished teaching this week, so maybe we'll have a Zoom meeting, Dan, to figure it out.
Let's rebrand and relaunch. If you have any ideas for the new title of this podcast, shoot us a message on Twitter, on YouTube, and we'll figure something out and do a real big splash with a new brand sometime soon.
There you go.
Thanks for listening, guys. This has been the Wildline Podcast.
Have a good one.